24-year-old Emily Carter walks through the front doors of a small convenience store in Dayton, Ohio, unaware that a single security camera above the counter is about to capture the last confirmed moments of her life. The footage looks ordinary. For nearly a year, investigators, journalists, and thousands of viewers online watched the exact same video. Emily steps inside. She pauses near the refrigerated drinks. She pays for a bottle of water. She leaves. Nothing appears wrong. Police reviewed the footage dozens of times during the investigation. Detectives slowed it down, enhanced the lighting, and studied every second leading up to the moment Emily disappeared just minutes later. And still, they believed the video showed nothing useful. The case slowly drifted toward the same quiet conclusion many missing person investigations reach. A few theories, no solid answers. But then, months later, a detective reviewing the footage one more time noticed something almost no one had ever looked at. Not the victim. Not the person behind the counter. Not even the door Emily walked through. Instead, he focused on the very corner of the frame. And at exactly 47 seconds into the video, something happened so subtle that millions of eyes completely missed it. Something that changes the timeline. Something that reveals someone else was there. And once you see it, the entire case looks completely different. March 18, 2023. 9:42 p.m. 24-year-old Emily Carter walks through the front doors of a small convenience store in Dayton, Ohio, unaware that a single security camera above the counter is about to capture the last confirmed moments of her life. The footage looks ordinary. For nearly a year, investigators, journalists, and thousands of viewers online watched the exact same video. Emily steps inside. She pauses near the refrigerated drinks. She pays for a bottle of water. She leaves. Nothing appears wrong. Police reviewed the footage dozens of times during the investigation. Detectives slowed it down, enhanced the lighting, and studied every second leading up to the moment Emily disappeared just minutes later. And still they believed the video showed nothing useful. The case slowly drifted toward the same quiet conclusion many missing person investigations reach. A few theories, no solid answers. But months later, a detective reviewing the footage again noticed something almost no one had ever looked at. Not the victim. Not the cashier. Not even the door Emily walked through. Instead, he focused on the very corner of the frame. And at exactly 47 seconds into the video, something happened so subtle that millions of eyes completely missed it. But to understand why that moment mattered, you first have to understand Emily Carter. Because nothing about her disappearance made sense. Emily grew up just outside Dayton in a quiet suburb called Kettering. Friends described her as thoughtful, organized, and almost unusually careful with the way she moved through life. She was the type of person who texted her parents when she arrived home. The type who shared her location with two close friends during late-night drives. The type who double-checked that her doors were locked. By 24, Emily had already built the kind of routine many people spend years trying to create. She worked as a physical therapy assistant at a small rehabilitation clinic on the east side of the city. Her job involved helping patients recovering from surgeries and injuries relearn basic movements. Co-workers remembered her patience. Emily was known for staying late if someone needed extra help walking down the hallway or practicing a new exercise. Patients remembered her too. One elderly patient later told investigators that Emily never rushed anyone. Even during busy shifts, she moved at the pace people needed. Her life outside work was quiet but full. She shared a small second-floor apartment with her golden retriever, Milo. On weekends she visited her parents, usually bringing baked goods she had experimented with during the week. Emily liked routines. Monday evenings meant a workout class with her friend Natalie. Wednesday nights were usually spent cooking something new while listening to true crime podcasts. Saturday mornings meant long walks along the Mad River Trail with Milo. Nothing about her life suggested risk. Nothing suggested recklessness. Which is exactly why the night of March 18th confused everyone who knew her. That Saturday started like many others. Emily spent the afternoon at her parents' house helping her mother reorganize the garage. Around 6:30 she drove back to her apartment. Phone records later showed her texting Natalie just after 7. The message was simple. Movie night tomorrow? Natalie replied within minutes. Always. At 8:48 p.m., Emily's phone connected to the Wi-Fi at her apartment complex. Investigators later believed she had settled in for the evening. She ordered takeout from a nearby Thai restaurant at 9:12. The delivery driver dropped the food off at 9:27. Security cameras in the apartment parking lot captured Emily walking outside briefly to pick up the bag from the doorstep. She looked relaxed, comfortable. Exactly like someone finishing a normal Saturday night at home. But 15 minutes later something changed. At 9:38 p.m., Emily's phone disconnected from her apartment Wi-Fi. 2 minutes later, it connected to a cell tower less than a mile away. That was the moment investigators believe she left her apartment. The reason seemed harmless. Emily had forgotten to buy bottled water earlier that day. The small convenience store on Linden Avenue was open 24 hours. It was less than 3 minutes away by car. Emily had made that exact trip dozens of times before, and the surveillance cameras would soon confirm it. At 9:42 p.m., her silver Honda Civic pulls into the convenience store parking lot. The store itself is small. 2 aisles, a refrigerated wall of drinks, a single cashier behind a counter facing the front door. The camera mounted above the register records the entire entrance area. When Emily opens the door, the bell above it rings. The video shows her stepping inside, holding her phone loosely in one hand. She walks toward the drink coolers without hesitation. Nothing about her body language suggests fear. Nothing suggests she feels watched. But this is where something important happens. Not something obvious. Not something dramatic. Just a moment that would later sit unnoticed inside this footage for months. Because everyone watching the video was focused on Emily. Where she walked. What she bought. When she left. And in doing that, they ignored something happening somewhere else inside the frame. But before that moment ever mattered, Emily still had several completely normal minutes left in her night. The cashier that evening was a 19-year-old college student named Marcus Hill. Marcus later told investigators that Emily looked familiar. Not in a memorable way. Just the way regular customers start to blend together. She grabbed a bottle of water from the cooler and walked to the counter. Marcus rang it up. $2.09. Emily paid with a debit card. The transaction took less than 20 seconds. They exchanged the kind of brief, forgettable conversation that happens thousands of times a day inside small stores. Marcus asked if she needed a bag. She said no. He told her to have a good night. She smiled politely. Then she walked back toward the door. According to the timestamp, Emily leaves the store at 9:43 p.m. Less than a minute after she entered. Nothing about the footage looked suspicious. Which is why, when Emily Carter failed to return home that night, no one initially believed the answer was hidden inside that exact video. Her parents reported her missing the next morning. Emily had never skipped Sunday breakfast before. Calls went straight to voicemail. Her car was found parked neatly outside the convenience store. The bottle of water she purchased was still sitting in the cup holder. And the last confirmed place anyone had seen her alive was the security camera inside that small store. Investigators believed the video would show the moment something happened to Emily. But after watching it repeatedly, they came to a simple conclusion. The footage showed nothing unusual. Emily walked in. Emily paid. Emily left. And that seemed to be the end of the story. But what they didn't realize was that everyone studying that video was watching the wrong thing. Because at exactly 47 seconds into that recording, the most important moment of the entire case quietly unfolds in the background. And almost no one saw it. By Sunday afternoon, the search for Emily Carter had already begun to expand beyond a simple missing persons report. Her parents drove to the convenience store on Linden Avenue early that morning after noticing her car was not at the apartment complex. When they spotted the silver Honda Civic sitting alone in the far corner of the parking lot, something immediately felt wrong. Emily never left her car overnight. Police arrived within minutes of the call. The vehicle was locked. There were no signs of damage. Her purse was still inside, resting on the passenger seat. Her phone, however, was gone. In the cup holder sat the bottle of water she had purchased just hours earlier, unopened. At first, investigators believed Emily may have left the store with someone she knew. Maybe she stepped into another vehicle. Maybe she accepted a ride. But there was a problem. The parking lot cameras. Detectives pulled the exterior footage from 3 separate cameras covering the store entrance and parking area. Emily's car is visible pulling into the lot at 9:42 p.m. She parks in the same spot where the vehicle was found the next morning. At 9:42 and 21 seconds p.m. she exits the car and walks toward the store entrance. And after that moment, the cameras show something investigators could not easily explain. No footage shows Emily walking back out. At least, not clearly. The exterior camera facing the door is partially blocked by a bright overhead light. The glare washes out most details around the entrance. Someone exits the store at 9:43 p.m. The figure moves quickly toward the left side of the frame. But the image is so overexposed that investigators cannot confirm whether the person is Emily. It becomes the first major uncertainty in the case. which is why the interior camera becomes so important. Inside the store, the footage appears much clearer. The recording begins several minutes before Emily enters. A customer purchases cigarettes at 9:40. Another customer leaves at 9:41. By 9:42 p.m., the store is empty except for Marcus behind the counter. Then the door opens. Emily steps inside. Detectives later reconstruct the entire sequence second by second. At 9:42 and 13 seconds p.m., she walks toward the refrigerated drink wall. At 9:42 and 22 seconds p.m., she reaches for a bottle of water. At 9:42 and 31 seconds p.m., she turns and approaches the counter. Marcus scans the bottle. The receipt prints. At 9:42 and 50 seconds p.m., Emily taps her debit card on the reader. Transaction approved. She thanks Marcus. At 9:42 and 58 seconds p.m., she turns toward the door. The bell rings again. At 9:43 and 3 seconds p.m., she exits the store. The timeline seems airtight. If Emily walked out of that door, the exterior camera should have captured her clearly. But they didn't. And that contradiction becomes the central mystery of the investigation. For the first few days, detectives focus on the possibility of an abduction in the parking lot. Search teams comb nearby streets. Police interview residents living within several blocks. Traffic cameras are reviewed. Nothing. No witness remembers hearing a struggle. No vehicles appear to leave the lot at unusual speeds. And no one reports seeing Emily Carter after she left the store. But this is where the investigation begins to shift. Because one person suddenly moves to the center of attention. Marcus Hill, the cashier. Detectives rewatch the footage again and again. Marcus is the only person inside the store when Emily enters. He is the last confirmed person to see her. His statement seems straightforward. He told police Emily bought a bottle of water, paid with a card, and walked out. He never saw her again. But small questions start to surface. Why didn't Marcus notice anything unusual outside when Emily left? Why didn't he remember whether she turned left or right in the parking lot? And why did the exterior camera fail to show her clearly leaving? Investigators bring Marcus in for a formal interview. He appears nervous, but cooperative. He explains that he spent most of his shift watching videos on his phone between customers. He says he barely looked up when Emily walked out. Nothing about the interaction seemed memorable. Still, suspicion grows. Because in missing persons investigations, the last person to see someone alive often becomes the first person detectives examine closely. Marcus's phone records are pulled. His location data shows he remained inside the store until his shift ended. There are no messages suggesting communication with Emily. No connection between them appears in social media records. And most importantly, the surveillance video shows Marcus behind the counter the entire time. He never leaves the camera's view. But public speculation doesn't slow down. Within days, the story spreads across local news stations. The phrase, "missing after convenience store visit," appears in headlines. Online forums begin analyzing the surveillance video frame by frame. Thousands of people watch the footage. Everyone is looking for something. A shadow. A reflection. A movement that investigators might have missed. But almost every theory focuses on the same idea. Something must have happened outside. Perhaps someone was waiting in the parking lot. Perhaps Emily walked into the wrong situation. Perhaps the overexposed camera simply hid the moment everything went wrong. Weeks pass. Then months. Searches continue across wooded areas near the store. Volunteers distribute flyers across Dayton. Emily's parents appear in local television interviews asking for information. But leads grow colder. And slowly the investigation begins to lose momentum. Police review the convenience store footage one more time before filing it into evidence. Their conclusion is simple. The video shows nothing suspicious. No second person enters the store during Emily's visit. No one approaches the counter. No one follows her toward the door. It appears to confirm the idea that whatever happened to Emily occurred after she left the building. And with no clear suspects, the case begins drifting toward the place investigators fear most. Unsolved. But what no one realized at the time was that thousands of people had already watched the exact moment that could explain everything. It was hiding in plain sight. Because while viewers focused on Emily walking to the counter, while detectives studied the door she exited, while investigators debated what happened in the parking lot, something else quietly appears inside the frame. It happens for less than 2 seconds. It doesn't involve the victim. It doesn't involve the cashier. And unless someone was watching the very edge of the camera's view, it was almost impossible to notice. which is exactly why it went unseen. Until one detective decided to stop watching Emily completely, and instead rewind the footage to exactly 47 seconds. For nearly 9 months, the disappearance of Emily Carter remained exactly where investigators feared it would: unresolved. The case file sat on a shelf inside the Dayton Police Department's Major Crimes Unit, occasionally reopened when a new tip arrived, but never moving forward in any meaningful way. Searches had been conducted. Phones had been analyzed. Vehicles had been tracked across traffic cameras for miles around the store. Nothing placed Emily anywhere after 9:43 p.m. And the surveillance video inside the convenience store had already been reviewed more times than anyone could count. At least that was the assumption. In December of 2023, a detective named Laura Bennett was assigned to conduct a routine cold case review. Bennett had a reputation inside the department for one specific habit. She rewatched everything. Not quickly, not casually, frame by frame. She believed something simple about surveillance footage that many investigators eventually forget. Most people watch the center of a frame. Almost no one studies the edges. So Bennett started where others had already looked: the convenience store video. At first, it looked exactly the way everyone remembered. Emily enters. She grabs a bottle of water. She approaches the counter. The purchase takes seconds. Nothing unusual. But Bennett wasn't watching Emily. She was watching the rest of the room. The corners. The reflections. The areas where the human eye usually drifts away. She slowed the video to half speed. Then 1/4. Then she began stepping through each second individually. 30 seconds. 35. 40 seconds. Everything appeared normal. Marcus behind the counter. Emily standing at the register. A quiet store late at night. Then the timestamp reached 9:42 and 47 seconds p.m. And something changed. Not in the center of the screen. Not near the counter. But along the far left edge of the frame, partially hidden by the tall refrigerated drink cooler. For less than 2 seconds, a narrow strip of movement appears in the reflection of the cooler's glass door. At normal speed it looks like nothing. A flicker. A shift in the light. But when Bennett froze the frame, the reflection sharpened into something unmistakable. A person. Standing inside the store. Behind the drink aisle. Someone who never approached the counter. Someone who never appeared in the direct view of the camera. Someone who had been inside the store the entire time. And somehow no one had noticed. Bennett rewound the footage again. This time she watched only the reflection. At 9:42 and 41 seconds p.m. Emily walks toward the counter. The reflection remains still. But the outline of a figure can be seen between the metal shelves. Tall. Wearing a dark hoodie. Facing the aisle. 6 seconds later, at 9:42 and 47 seconds p.m. The figure shifts slightly. Just enough for the cooler's glass to catch the movement. Then the person disappears deeper behind the shelves. The reflection vanishes. And unless someone was looking exactly there at exactly that moment, it looked like nothing at all. This single detail rewrote the entire case. Because investigators had built their entire timeline around one assumption: that Emily and the cashier were alone inside the store. But they weren't. Someone else had been standing only a few feet away, watching. And the camera never saw them directly. The reason it had been missed for so long was simple. The surveillance camera faced the counter. The drink aisle ran parallel to the lens. Anyone standing between the shelves and the cooler could remain completely hidden. Except for one thing: the glass reflection. Once detectives realized this, they reanalyzed every second of footage again. The reflection appears 3 times. Each one lasting less than a second. Each one confirming the same figure moving quietly inside the aisle. And the timing raised a disturbing possibility. Whoever was behind those shelves waited until Emily approached the register. Waited until her attention was forward. Waited until the cashier looked down at the card reader. Then they moved. Investigators returned to the exterior cameras. This time focusing on the overexposed doorway at 9:43 p.m. The glare had hidden details before. But with new software enhancement, shapes inside the light became clearer. 2 figures exit the store. Not one. The first figure is Emily. The second appears half a second later, emerging from the left side of the door. A person wearing a dark hoodie. Walking closely behind her. At first glance it looks almost like coincidence. 2 customers leaving at the same time. But Emily never returned to her car. Which meant the person behind her likely continued walking beside her into the parking lot. And that person had never been identified. Until investigators made one final discovery. Detectives reviewed store receipts from earlier that evening. At 9:38 p.m., 4 minutes before Emily arrived, someone had purchased a prepaid phone card. Cash payment. No name. But the transaction included a loyalty card scan used to apply a small discount. The card belonged to a man named Daniel Reeves. Reeves lived less than 2 miles away. He had a minor criminal record involving stalking complaints filed by a former co-worker. And most importantly, his driver's license photo showed something investigators immediately recognized. His height, his build, and a habit of wearing dark hooded sweatshirts. Police obtained a warrant to search Reeves's apartment. Inside they found the prepaid phone card packaging, the hoodie seen in the surveillance reflection, and Emily Carter's phone. Reeves eventually admitted he had been inside the store that night. He claimed he noticed Emily when she entered. He waited behind the aisle hoping to speak to her outside. But the evidence showed something far more deliberate. He had been watching her, waiting for the exact moment she would walk out. The reflection at 47 seconds proved he was already positioned behind the shelves before she even reached the counter. The detail that everyone missed, the flicker in the glass, the movement in the corner. That moment had been hiding the truth the entire time. Emily Carter was never alone inside that store. And once detectives saw what happened at 0:47, the entire case finally made sense. In court, prosecutors played the enhanced footage for the jury. They slowed the video to the exact frame where the reflection appears. For the first time, 12 jurors saw the same detail that had gone unnoticed by millions. A person waiting, watching, just outside the camera's direct view. The evidence led to Daniel Reeves being convicted of Emily Carter's abduction and murder in late 2024. For Emily's family, the resolution brought something they had waited nearly 2 years to hear. The truth. All of it uncovered because one detective refused to watch the obvious parts of the video. Instead, she looked where almost no one else ever does. The edge of the frame. And the next time you watch surveillance footage that seems ordinary, look again. Because sometimes the most important detail isn't the thing everyone is watching. It's the thing almost no one sees.